Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us on this Wednesday morning. I don't know about you, but all of the snow has gone where I am, so I hope that's the case for where you are. We've got a fair few people joining us this morning, so we're just going to give it a couple of minutes just while we wait for everyone. So while we wait, feel free to pop in the chat. Obviously, if we were face to face, you'd be able to network and talk. So don't miss that opportunity. Feel free to say hello in the chat, tell us a bit about yourself. You're welcome to put contact details in there. Let us know what you're up to this weekend. I'm sure we can guess, but if you've got something a bit out there or a bit different, that would be great to help give us some inspiration as well. So yeah, Emma, while we wait, what have you got planned for this weekend?
Oh dear. Hi everyone. I don't have much planned this weekend, except I'm going to be resting and nesting and preparing for my first child that is coming in March. So not much, just being at home and enjoying, or try to enjoy being at home, and maybe do a few Zooms with family and friends. So I guess what a lot of people are doing at the moment. Probably some walks in the woods. It's always nice.
Yes, it is. So yeah, as we said, people who've joined us, we'll give it one more minute and then we'll start. Feel free to pop in the chat function, just say hello, tell us a bit about yourself. You're welcome to put contact details in there as well. I can see there are some coming in. So hi, Tom. Morning, everyone. Tom here from Big C Cancer Charity. Thank you so much for joining us, Tom. I'm also excited because we've also got Chris Bushby, the CEO from Big C, joining us to be a guest speaker on our Chamber Connect at the end of March. So yeah, looking forward to that session. Alex says, congratulations on your first child, Emma. We've also got from Andrew, morning Hall, I am off to UES, not sure where that is, maybe someone can help me out, this weekend to complete my volunteer vaccinator training. Oh, I love that. I'm Guy Tweedle. I own the alternative board here in Norwich. Love that. Morning. Holly Stibben from 101 Websites, App and Smart Messenger Email Marketing. Hi, Lauren from Allman Woodcock, sorry. I was like, I didn't know if there was an I in there or not, but there's not. Oh, and Guy says, sorry, he's going to the UEA. I did wonder, I was like, oh. So yeah, I think we'll get started. It doesn't matter if people miss my intro. Once I've done the introduction, I'm then going to put myself on silent. So if you see my head go like this, I promise I'm not working and ignoring Emma at all. I'm just chasing any late comers, just sending them a little reminder. So thank you so much for joining us. For those of you who don't know, my name is Kayleen Harrington, and I recently joined the Chamber as their events manager. So thanks for joining us on our next recovery programme event. This series has been designed to support businesses to restart, rebuild and renew. So pitching with confidence. The goal of this masterclass is to give you the tool to pitch your business eloquently with passion, authenticity and credibility. So in the 60-minute virtual masterclass with Emma Zanes, choreographer and movement and communication coach, she will be covering what matters the most when pitching, basics of achieving a grounded presence that transforms the effectiveness of your message, tried and tested techniques to avoid filler words, find the right posture and hand gestures that improve speech, have effective eye contact too, mindset and activating confidence exercise, and best practice when pitching remotely or on camera. So following the presentation, there'll be a live Q&A where Emma will answer all your questions. So please use the Q&A when you have a question for Emma. There'll also be a couple of polls as well. So make sure you don't go to sleep during this presentation, not that you would. So Emma, over to you.
Thank you so much and welcome everyone. I see some names that I recognize from last month's webinar, so it's always lovely to see people coming back. So we're going to dive into crafting, delivering a pitch that has an impact and punch. So the investors or the audience that you're talking to want to know more about your idea, your product, your services, whatever it is that you're pitching for. And ultimately, you're pitching to get some support on your journey, and be it having new clients also, or also raising funds. So I'll talk a little bit about my background quickly. As some of you already came last month, I'm going to share a few slides that give you a bit of an idea of who am I. You can probably hear my French accent. So I'm from Normandy in France, and I arrived in the UK 11 years ago, 12 years ago. I did a master's in choreography, and about 6 years ago, I delved into the world of movement coaching, and realizing that in the startup world or in the business world, people had to do it all. So there's quite a few founders and directors and managing directors here today with us. And often we have to do quite a lot of things as entrepreneurs. We have to wear quite many hats, and we need to be good at quite a lot of things. So when we are working all day on our product, on our services, on the day-to-day admin, and then in the evenings or even during the day, we have to pick up the phone or pitch on Zoom or camera or face-to-face if we are able to, then it's another set of skills that we need to learn. So I realized that with working with people that had to go back to work, especially moms lacking the confidence, the body could be really useful. And my background as a choreographer and as a performer was really helpful to understand how our brain and our body aligns, and how can our message be completely received on the other end without having all of this body doing whatever it needed to. So a lot of the time when we have the anxiety raising in our body, our hands might flap around, we might fidget, we might blush, we might blank, and we might there are so many things that the body will start doing in order to release the anxiety and the overflowing adrenaline in our body. And by using movement, by using our body, by really understanding that the whole brain and body thing is one thing, is not separated, then we're able to be a lot more present, a lot calmer, and a lot more confident. So that's what we're going to be seeing. We're going to see today the mindset, what's going on in the mind, but quickly we're going to move on to, all right, I have my content. How can I craft my content? How can I display it in the best way possible? How can I memorize it? A few tools on that, but also how can you deliver it? So then you are completely confident, completely authentically talking without always thinking, what are people thinking of me? Or all the thoughts that our brain are very good at coming up with. So I'm going to ask now Kayleen, before we move on to the mindset and the first part, just for me to understand who's in the room and what do you need the most today. But I have two questions for you I'd like you to answer before we start. So the first one is, if Kayleen, you can start the poll. Have you ever pitched before for funding or for having a project approved? If you can say yes or no, that would be great. So then we get an idea of who's here today. Hopefully you can see that. Fine. And maybe Kayleen can share the results. Great, 55% of you, 45% no. Brilliant. So if you have tips that works for you, please share them in the chat as well. The knowledge is in the room. There's 55%, 11 people that pitched before. So don't hesitate to also share your tips to the other 9 who never done it before. And the second question is around, what are your main challenges? What are you struggling the most when pitching or presenting in front of an audience? There are 10 points. So maybe preparation is very difficult, creating your script, your slides. Maybe you're not taking as much time as you would want to or as you need, and you're like, oh, I'll just see how it goes, I'll just wing it. And often that can create a bit of a more anxiety, or just we don't really know what we did, we can't remember what we said, and we're not having a great time. Maybe we overthink too much instead of trying something and see how it goes. Maybe we speak fast, we hum, we blank, and we can't remember the whole preparation that we've done before. We run out of breath. Maybe our heart is pounding very fast. Maybe we're shaking, or maybe nothing happens. And maybe you love pitching and you're here just to get a refresher on how to pitch better. So just give me an idea of where you're at with your pitching journey, so I can probably refer to those while we are going through the tips. And if nothing is in the list, just pop it in the chat and I will pick it up. Great, thank you, Kayleen. Okay, so preparation. So the first three, yeah, they're at the top for a reason. and blanking, yeah, it's always a very popular. Nobody loves pitching. I guess you're in the right place then. There's always one person in a workshop that's like, oh, I'm okay with pitching. But I guess you're all in the right place, and we will cover quite a lot of all of these. Brilliant, thank you so much. So now let's move on to mindset and how to approach. As soon as you know you're going to have to pitch, how can you approach the event in the best way possible? I am very sorry if you can hear some background noise. There is a big tree being cut near my house, and they're shredding it next to my house. So sorry for the sound if that is stopping you from hearing me well, but I'll try to articulate and project my voice so you can hear me. So mindset, it can really break you, especially just beforehand, before pitching, but it's something that you can practice. And I would really urge you to go back to the recording of last month's webinar about the mindset for public speaking, because there will be some tips and tools there that we covered that you could use also for pitching. But specifically for pitching, 0.1, who could that be? If I tell you what is 0.1 in pitching, well, 0.1 is how long it takes to judge someone. So as soon as you saw my face, as soon as you saw Kayleen's face, as soon as you entered the room to pitch your client, as soon as you picked up the phone and heard the first few words that they said on the phone, your brain has made a judgment about that person, and their brain made a judgment about you. So for pitching, let's not stay there. Let's not stay in the judging part. Because if you stay in the judging part of, oh, am I speaking well, or am I saying the right thing, or are they going to like what I do, or are they going to like X, Y, Z, then you are more self-conscious and self-absorbed. You are not in communication mode. You are not pitching anymore. So the first mindset that you can think of is that it's not about you. When you are pitching, when you are in front of an audience, be it on camera or live, it doesn't matter. Tell yourself it's not about me. And you're going to say, yeah, but Emma, of course it's about me, because I'm here and I'm the person speaking and I have all these lights on and I have the microphone and everybody's looking at me. Of course, of course it is about you, but if that's what you're thinking of, and that's what your brain is consumed with, it will be harder to pitch, much harder to pitch. So I would like you to start thinking about what it is about. And you can put it in the chat. It is about, tell me what pitching is about. Maybe you have no idea and that's why you're here. So what is it about when you're pitching? Thank you, Leah. We'll come back to your comment. Delivering a message, thank you, to get an outcome you want. Yes, it's focusing on the message. getting your point across. The passion, Tamara, yeah, thank you so much. If you focus on being passionate, that's what people will feel, and I'll explain why later. But sometimes your points can be a bit fuzzy and it can create a bit of overwhelming thoughts. But whatever works for you, there's no right or wrong. It's just finding your purpose for that pitch. For example, this workshop, it is about me giving you some tools to then pitch better. It's not about me. I'm kind of the messenger to bring some tools and techniques to you. But I have to remind myself of this, otherwise I can just be quite conscious, anxious, self-conscious. Pitching is about understanding the needs of your audience. Thank you so much, Holly. Yes, it's also about the other person. As I said, like I'm bringing something to you. And if you see, I'm doing this hand gesture that is moving forward. And pitching and communicating is active. It's an active act. It's something that brings action. So you ensure that what you say and what you bring is aligned with what people are there for. So it's very important that you understand your audience, and maybe there's some background checks that you can do for your clients or for your investors that you are talking to. And it will give you some more understanding of what the message will be. But we're not here to really drill down on the message, but definitely that will boost your confidence to think about, okay, what's in it for them? What can I bring them? What can I bring to the table? And if you don't know and you're being pulled into a meeting and you don't know who you're talking to and your boss said, go and pitch them what we do, please, please, please do not start pitching straight away. First, ask questions, get to know them before you're about to start. I hope that makes sense. And if you do that, you will create trust. If you get to find out more about your audience, you will create the trust. But the trust also comes from you being grounded in yourself, and we'll see later how that works. But with your mindset, if you have a purpose, you will be a lot more grounded within yourself and people will trust you. I love Lego. I have a box of Lego in my house. But if you think about the people you're talking to as maybe part of a team or maybe more collaboratively, that you're going to be maybe working together later on. So you're pitching to them, but be it a client or an investor, you might have a relationship that lasts for years after your pitch. So you want to make sure that you can be part of that team too. And you are investing in your clients, you are investing in your investors. And it's very important to always remember, who do I want to work with? You're also judging them as you're pitching. It's not only them. You're also checking in. Oh, okay, so this is what your project is. This is how I could help. Let me think about if I really want to go ahead with this. And that will also give you a lot more confidence to think that it's a two-way system. It's not only you selling to them. It's not only you proposing something to them and hoping they're going to give you the funds or get a contract after the meeting. Here is a quote I really love, always going back to in terms of mindset. And I'm going to read it to you if you can't. So I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And thank you, Tamara, for talking about passion, because that is what people usually remember. And an investor will then talk about you as, she's super passionate, she will pivot her business, she's super driven, because that's also what they remember, that's what they take away after the meeting. So do not overlook how much your passion and your energy can affect the other person. And it works online. I can totally vouch for it. I've worked for the past year with loads of startups that have to pitch online, and you can feel their passion, you can feel their energy, even though we're not in the same room. So my first question for you now, if you have a pen and paper next to you, is what do you want your audience to remember of you? And to really start there, it is not about you. It is about bringing something to them. It is about how do you want them to leave the meeting with, and how do you want them in 6 months, a year, still think about your encounter or your meeting with you. Investment or pitching for projects, it always takes time. It always takes building a relationship with people. And if you're interested as well, you could do the reverse. What are you looking for in the audience or the clients that you're pitching to? What are you looking for in a client? So if I give you my experience, when I'm talking to clients on the phone or I'm having a meeting, I'm always looking for their commitment. If they are not committed to be coached or to change or to be ready to try things with me, it will be harder for me to do my job. So then I may be able to say, well, actually, I don't think it's going to work because you're expecting me to do the work for you, but I can't pitch for you. I can't communicate for you. You're going to have to do the work. If they're not ready to do the work, I can't really work with you. And that creates a lot more boundaries and clarity over how you're pitching. Great. So we're going to wrap up the mindset, and we're on time, which is good because we have quite a lot to cover. And now we'll go into craft. So you all received the pre-work PDF that I sent. I hope that was useful. Keep it for yourself. Go back to it when you have a new pitch. I'm just going to go through some basics on crafting content for pitching. And I'm going to explain why it's important to not overlook certain aspects of it when you're pitching. So these are the lists of a typical pitch, usually for a 3 to 5 minute pitch. Obviously, you can stretch it to 10, but if you want a 1 minute pitch, it's going to be a lot shorter, and you probably will go on to the first 4 points or 5 points max, but you won't be able to fit in much more than that. So for the introduction, it's always very useful. By the way, this is a template. It doesn't mean you have to follow this order. You know your product better, you know your business better than anyone else. So you know if you want to start talking about the team, because the team is everything. The team is like what you want to put forward first. So there is no order, but this is, for the sake of it, we need an order. So this is what the template offers. So you can introduce your names. Yeah, I talked about the team, but you can also start with a story. This is not a storytelling workshop, but do whatever you know works best for you, and try things. If you've never pitched before, try it. It's going to take you months and years there's no perfect pitch. There's always a pitch that is dedicated to the person you're talking to. So you're going to change your slide, you're going to change your content. You're never going to have like a one fits all pitch. So be ready to be quite creative, quite fluid, and dare trying things and see how people react to it. If you're aware of A/B testing, it's a bit the same. Today I'm going to test this pitch, tomorrow I'm going to test this other pitch, and see how people react. A one-liner is very useful to have, because that gives the audience in one sentence what you do. If after 2 minutes I'm in the audience, or I'm in the meeting, and I don't really catch what is it that you do, I will start having loads of questions in my head, and I'm not going to be listening to you. So very quickly, you want to grasp the audience and say, this is what I do. I deliver public speaking workshops, pitch workshops for accelerators, entrepreneurs, and business schools. It's like one sentence, it says what I do. The hook is setting the scene. So it could be 90% of people said they would likely die than step on stage and speak to an audience, which means I have a lot of work. So 90%, that's something that people remember. Usually numbers really work for people. Problems give the pain. Okay, why do these people have these anxiety over communicating? Well, because we don't do it often. How often do you go on stage and pick up a microphone? Well, it's scary because it's not known. It's not something that we do every day. Give concrete examples when you are talking about your problems. Paint a picture for the person that is listening to you. If you are not giving concrete examples, it's all very conceptual. Some people might not react very well to concepts, or very if you are or very technical terms. So try to always break it down into how does it work in a real world, and then show the solution. If you can show me the solution, that's great, or show me how it works, or explain, okay, maybe a few exercises. So sometimes people that I talk to are like, okay, so how does a session look like? How does a workshop look like? And then I go through a few things about how I work, and that gives them some tools about some pictures about how I coach. The market, you might not know it, and that's okay. And it's not for every pitches, it might not be relevant. But if you are talking to investors and you want to pitch your business, they will want to know how big the opportunity is and maybe which demographic you're talking to. So for the first year, we're targeting the 20 to 30 years old, and we're hoping to move on to this demographic later on in the next 5 years. So you can give some sort of idea to the investor on who you're talking to, who's your market, who is your audience. Validation and traction. Often people are like, oh, I'm just starting, so I don't know where to start. Well, it's okay. Everybody needs to start somewhere, but show who is endorsing you. So maybe you've gone through a program, maybe you've tested it with your mom, your grandmother, and your aunt, and that's what they said, and that's where you're at. And that's how you know it could work. Or maybe you've had the issue before and you've been through these problems yourself, and you know how it could be useful for so many people. So it's trying to see, okay, how can I prove that this will work, and where is the validation of what I bring. For the business model, the main question is how you're going to make money. If you don't answer this, the investor will ask it at the end, for sure. So you have to go through it. If you have time, talk about the competitors. And it's not about saying, oh, we're better than our competitors, or we're doing this better. It's more like, I have an understanding of the industry. I know where I position myself, and this is how I'm different. And I'm different because I'm a choreographer, because I bring my dance background, because people seem to really connect to me when I coach them, and it's not for everyone, and that's okay. There's so many other brilliant coaches that can bring other aspects of public speaking and communication and pitching. So it's knowing what makes you different. The team is very important. If it's only you, talk about yourself, what you've done before, what are the important milestones that you've had. And it's not about bragging about you. It's about saying, this is my experience, this is my journey, and it's going to carry on. So it's about being very honest and seeing it as, this is what shaped me, this is what made me who I am right now. And then if you have a team, just please talk about them and how are they really key and relevant for building or creating what you're creating. Do not overlook how your vision and your mission can be very inspiring for people. So inviting people to join your mission is crucial. My mission is for people to be living a more embodied life, and to understand that their bodies has so much potential to help them on communication, on working better, on feeling more confident, on well-being. There's so much that can be done if we are more embodied in our life. And that's my mission. And I connect with people that are interested in that. And then the close is to have something that is really enthusiastic. And it's so important to have a one-liner or one thing you say at the end. Because often what I see when people pitch, they have 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, however long they have, but then they finish with, that's it. And then they do this little flap of hands, and the whole energy drops, and you're like, that's it? You've been working 6 months, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years on this, and that's it? No, 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 no. So you want to finish on a high and finish on your note, and just take a deep breath in and stop talking. A lot of the time, it's really hard when the nerves are here to not want to add another thing and add another thing and add another thing. But just stop on the high and then wait for the audience or the investors or whoever you're talking to then ask questions. Or you want to prompt them onto asking a question. So then you're waiting for the answers. Whatever works for you, but please do not finish with that's it. Because I've seen this too much, and it's heartbreaking, because you've worked so hard to create this pitch, to create your business, to be where you are. I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to answer a question's been asked. I'm going to stop sharing this. A question's been asked by Tom Hiller, and I wanted to, and the question is, I'm going to read it. Thank you for bringing that up. How do you put all the relevant info on your slides, but not end up just reading out slides to people during your pitch? That's a really good question. A lot of the time we have the content, and then the slides are heavily packed with a lot of content, and you could just have sent it to them over email. You basically don't have a purpose. Remember, you are the person talking. You're there for a reason. You're bringing something to them. So I'm going to share with you 2 slides on how to use graphics and visuals that can help you condense a bit better the sorry, I lost my slides for a second because it's on a different workshop, but I think it could be very useful for you to see. So let me share that with you. But yeah, you don't want to end up it doesn't allow me to share. Here we go. Okay, so the first 3 things you can do to display complex content. So a lot of the time, if you are in a very technical role or what you do is very technical, this is not from me, although that's what I recommend to my clients. But if you're interested in delving into how to simplify complex content, charts are usually the best. So you can choose, and usually these are the 3 options that people, in these 3 options, you will find something that works for you. So this is how you can display content and not read, because you need to be there for someone to understand charts. You will have a purpose. You will have something to say. You'll walk them through your chart, and therefore it's not an email pitch. It's an actual delivery pitch. And then the other aspect that you can look into when you're creating your slides, so there is no sentences on them, very important. Try not to write full sentences on your slides, because then people end up reading them and they're not listening to you. They switch off, basically. But these are 3 very simple ways to condense content, and then you explain it. So you can create some verticals. For example, we have 5 products. We have the baby product, the teenage product, the adult product, the senior product, and the senior plus product. So you can have some verticals on how to explain that. Verticals are usually easier for the brain to understand, instead of bullet points going from top to down. Or you can have image and text, so only keywords. Imagine you have to pay for every single word that are on your slides. If you have full sentences, you're going to be broke at the end of your presentation. So try to distill what are the keywords. And then the third aspect is to have a big, bold statement. But for example, if I say, since the 1960s, the thickness of the Arctic ice has decreased by 40%, then I have to explain, okay, what are the factors? Are we sure this is a right, trusted fact that we can look into? I have to do a bit more work to explain the context of this. So I hope that was useful for you, Tom. But this is how you don't have to have everything written on the slide. And now you're going to tell me, but how can I memorize everything to say if it's not on the slide? Well, we're going to come to this in a second. But I hope that was useful. So how can you memorize content quickly without reading your slides? Also, if you in terms of space, we'll see it later, but if you have a screen next to you with your slides, often in a live setting, that you end up turning your back to people and you end up looking at your slides a lot and you're not really connecting to people you're talking to. You're not really communicating. So how can we memorize? Here we go. I hope you can see this. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. I'm going to go to the next one straight away. The forest method. The forest method is really useful to take people through a journey and not having to say every single details or for you to say the details but not having them on the slides. So you need to have a map in your brain or have some papers or post-its all around your screen or have some notes with you, but they are different from the slides. So you are working more than your slides. Your slides are just there to support you. They're just signposting the audience. So they're taking them on a journey, but you are doing the work of guiding them through your pitch, through your forest. Your business, your product, your services are massive. You could talk about them for days, but you only have 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour meeting. You want to take people onto only what they need to know. And for that, you also need to understand who they are, what they want to know, where is it useful for them, what is useful for them to know. But try to have this forest journey that you're taking them onto. And then you can spend more time on certain trees and certain branches, but you also want to know why you're going from one tree to another. There needs to have a logical reason why you're talking about each aspect and when. So this is your job to do as a speaker, as a founder, as someone that is selling or talking. You need to have a forest or a timeline or a journey really perfectly mapped into your brain. And you can do it in many ways you want. You can have visuals, you can have you can draw your timeline, but you can also write it down. You can there's no right way or wrong way, but you need to know how you're taking people through and how you're exiting this forest, how you're finishing your pitch. It's a bit like having a clothesline. The clothesline is what you're keeping your eyes onto. Like, this is how I'm going to finish. If you do not have your eyes on that, you may lose yourself in this forest and therefore lose everyone else as well. People might interrupt. That's okay. But your job is to steer them towards the end of your pitch. So bring them back in, have a little pause, answer the question, go back to the pitch. So now we're going to move on to the third part, which is the active, and how with your body you can feel more confident and be truly active rather than passive, self-conscious, as we talked about, and quite stressed or tense. So I'm going to invite you. I'm going to do a little warm-up before we delve into this. And the little warm-up is very simple. You probably heard of it first, but it's how you can calm your nerves very quickly. The square exercise is an exercise that used by the army, and it's used with people with PTSD, but it's useful for everyone because it recreates a pattern of breathing. When we get anxious, our breathing usually goes out of the window, we forget to breathe, and then we're blanking, and then we don't know where we are, and then it's all a bit of a mess in the body and everything. So if you have your breathing in control, you're actually sending messages to your brain that it's okay, that you have oxygen, that you can speak for longer, that you're here and there's nothing to worry about. So we're going to do this little breathing exercise together. And if you want to attach it to feeling the diaphragm, that's also possible. So the way you do it is that you just put your hands on your ribs and you want to feel your ribs expanding and retracting. When we are using our diaphragm rather than our chest, we activate the parasympathetic nervous system and we calm everything down. But let's go on to the square. And the square, there are squares everywhere. You can use a window, you can use a door, you can use a phone, a book. It's a very good little practice to warm up and to feel calmer. Even if before starting writing your pitch, you can do this. So we're going to start by looking at the bottom left of the square. And we're going to scan the black line. And we're going to inhale. And when you arrive at the top, we're going to hold the breath. And then you exhale when you go down to the bottom right. And when you arrive at the corner, you hold your breath. And we're going to do it 2 more times. Inhale. And hold. And exhale. And hold. And we're going to do 1 more time, but on your own, at your own pace. Try to go as slowly as you can. Lovely. You might have felt like during the breathing out and the exhale, like your muscles really relax. My shoulders really relax down, and that is great. We want to feel grounded. We want to feel more in our weight down, and that helps also our brain not to be too nervous or too tense. When we tense, we tend to elevate the body. So breathing out or having a longer exhale really help us to do that. And in holding the breath, you're recreating a pattern. Your brain might be freaking out and say, oh, I'm not breathing in, I'm not breathing out. But there is always a little holding when we are really breathing calmly. If you pay attention to when you're sleeping, your breathing is not always in or out. There is always a little holding happening. So we want to recreate that as we get more anxious or getting ready to pitch. And also having more oxygen in the body can't be wrong. The second thing that we're going to do to warm up is the power pose. So what do you do when you get really excited, when you win something, when you're like, yes, I did this? And I would like you to put your body into that shape. So I put some suggestions. If you're interested in that study, I would encourage you to look at Amy Cuddy's work. She's a neuroscientist and she explains the whole background behind the power poses and why is it effective, and you can watch her TED talk. But just to get a bit warmer, a bit more in our body, we're going to hold the power pose for 10 seconds. So you choose which one you want to do. I'm going to do this one for myself, but you choose whatever you do when you win something, when you're really excited. Ready, steady, go. You can just smile if you want. And you hold it. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, a bit more, 1, and relax. And maybe it made you laugh. Maybe you just saw me do it and that's enough. You felt my energy. But it's really important that you put yourself in a much more positive place rather than dwelling on your thoughts or overthinking or thinking, I'm not ready, my script, I haven't practiced enough. No, you're there, it's too late. So just put yourself in a much more positive place, much more active place. So then you're telling your brain, it's okay, we got this. Now let's move on to how to stay engaged throughout. If you feel like you're kind of like losing your ground, that is getting a bit difficult to carry on pitching, you're blanking as some of you mentioned, or your content is not quite there and like, oh, I'm not quite sure how this is going. how to stay engaged and how to stay delivering your pitch and with impact in the best possible way, because you want your message to land. You don't want your body to start doing all these anxious things that give away that you are not quite sure or doubting or etc. So hand gestures, we're going to look at this. I'm going to actually stop sharing for a second. So hand gestures can be really helpful. If you have a surplus of adrenaline, you have a lot of energy that you need to get rid of and to to thank you, Kayleen, for sharing Amy Cuddy's TED Talk. And you want to get rid of this surplus of adrenaline, and usually hand gestures can be very useful. We looked at the slide as helping you to deliver your content or complex content, or put a content into a much more visual, striking, much more easy to understand message. Your hand gesture can do that too. So with your hand gestures, I wanted to put it down. You can have 3 parts, like the vertical that I was talking about. You can have this or that. You can really illustrate what you're talking about. So you can have kind of pictures that comes out with the way you use your hands. So I would say video yourself. You're going to be like, oh, don't want to video myself. Videoing yourself is the best thing you can do, because you will see how you use your hands. What is it that you do naturally? What is it that you could do better? but check how you're using your hands naturally. Try not to choreograph it too much. Just use them, tell them, follow what I say, and they will help you to illustrate and to be more eloquent and to actually actively send the message out to people. If we're keeping them too close to us, we might create more tension, we might feel more anxious. So opening them up, using the space around us. Just right now, you're at your desk listening to me, just bring them up onto your table. Just feel your hands. There's so many connections to the brain. 40% of the right side of your brain is linked to your hands. There's so many connections there. So if you're not using your hands, you're not using your brain well. It's as simple as that. You don't want to use them too much and for it to be too overwhelming, but you want them to follow what you say. If you have a place where they go back to, great, a neutral hand gesture on the side or on the table, and then you illustrate your most important point. It's a bit like your bullet points, it's a bit your UX design. I love hand gestures. They can do so much and they can really help you to draw people back in. If you haven't spoken for a while and you have an issue with taking the microphone or taking the lead, just by moving them before you speak, you give the cue to people that you're ready, that you want to speak, because you're active. If you stay passive the whole time, nobody's going to give you the microphone, or nobody's going to ask you a question, or you have to engage your body first. So hand gestures, very, very important. Now voice. So the voice, it's important to, it's often something that goes first because we don't know how to breathe. So remember the diaphragm, but also with the voice, you want to have a warmer voice that comes from the chest. And if your voice is more up like here, which could be for me, I could speak like this, but it's better to have a more variety of the voice. So always try to feel like your voice comes from the chest, not from your vocal cord. And for that, we just need to count. When we count, we lower automatically our voice. So I'm going to invite you to count with me up to 5 and feel the vibrations here in your chest. So breathe in and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so if you couldn't feel anything, that's okay. Maybe you felt it a bit more in the vocal cords. The body is a whole muscle. You're able to stretch it if you practice these 5 numbers or counting every day and feeling the vibration here. You're like, okay, that's where my voice comes from. And that can really bring groundedness and confidence back. And then your voice will fluctuate, go up and down and up and down. But it's important that you are connecting to that voice here, and then let the voice go where it needs to go, a bit like with the hand gestures. One thing though, try to be attentive to up talking. So up talking is when your voice go up at the end of a sentence as if it's a question, but it's not a question, is it? And it's proven that when women pitch and up talk, they do not get invested on. So I would really urge you to video yourself, listen to your voices, look at your hand gesture, just do a little analysis of how you're pitching, and be like, okay, is my voice going up at the end? And it's very trendy to speak like this. We all do it, right? Because it's very nice and fluid and it's very friendly, but it doesn't work for pitching. It creates questions on the other people's mind. If I say, hi, my name is Emma, it's like, oh, is it really? Unconsciously, you're questioning what I'm saying. But actually, my name is Emma. there's no doubt about this. So if there is no questions to ask, do not inflect your voice up, or try to. If you have one or two, that's not the end of the world. But if you do it at every single sentences, it might create a bit of distrust, or I'm not quite sure. But also what it does is that it doesn't allow you to breathe because your voice is up. So you have to carry on and carry on and carry on. When do you breathe? So you breathe when your voice goes down. That's why connecting to here really helps you to then bring your voice back home, back into the body, and then take a deep breath in, and no humming and no harring. Breathing is key for no humming. It's hard to nail, it's difficult, but trust that if you breathe, you're able to think better, you bring oxygen into your body, you're not up talking, you're not humming. Thank you, Doreen, for the little feedback. You will have all these techniques in the slides, but I prefer doing this part without the slides. With posture, it's also very key that you know what to do with the posture. Otherwise, even if you're sitting down or standing, your legs might shake, you might start fidgeting, you might start swaying. A lot of the time when we're pitching, we start swaying and it's like a little lullaby and we're all gonna go to sleep. Our brains need to deal with movement before it deals with movement before it deals with words. So before you give your message out, the other person on the other side is dealing with all your movements. So if your movements are completely detached from what you're saying, it will create complete disconnect in their brain, and they might be like, I don't know what to believe. Am I trusting the movements, or am I listening to the message? It doesn't connect. So you really want to embrace the whole body. The body is there for a reason. It's like, hey, I'm here. I want to help you. Okay, so the posture is your frame, is your scaffolding. So try to have your feet on the floor. If you're sitting down, try not to put them underneath. Feet on the floor will help you to ground, to feel more calm. Really feel like it's really yielding onto the floor. And then your scaffolding, your bones, is helping you to have more energy. So it's a bit like a tree, you want to go into the ground, use the fungi and all these greatness of the earth, and bring the energy back up and relax the shoulders. So you can do a little warm up, shake, get rid of extra energy. You don't have to, you can dance before pitching if you want to, but just get into the body is very important. Often we're so stressed out, we just go into the meeting super stressed out, and we arrive like this, and it's like, ugh. And it's harder for the body to be engaged and be like, okay, I'm here to pitch as well. And then we move on to eye contact. So eye contact on Zoom, it's a difficult one, but trust that if you're looking at people's eyes, you will talk to them, you will be directed. If you're in front of an audience, you can also direct your eye contact to other people's eyes. If you're talking to 100 people, try to send your eye contact to the back of the room. And you see what I'm doing with my arms? I'm also using my whole body and my whole chest. We connect to people through the chest. We don't connect through eye contact. So if I turn my body to you, but I'm still making eye contact to Kayleen, for example, it's like, I'm not really talking to you. I'm talking to you, but it's much better if I'm actually sharing my whole body to you. It's like, I'm here with you, I'm present, I'm talking to you. So the chest is much more important for engagement than the eye contact. And space, to finish with space, you want to feel comfortable in wherever you're pitching. So you arrive in a room that you don't know, you scan, you do a 360 matrix analysis of the room of like, where do I feel comfortable? This is where I'm going to speak from. I feel comfortable speaking standing up. I stand up. Who cares? If you prefer sitting down, that's great for you. You need to know what makes you comfortable, which space makes you feel comfortable. And try to analyze, who are you talking to? So if you have people next to you or behind you, that might not be the best way to present, because you will have to, as we talked about the chest, you may have to talk to them like this and then go back to the audience. So you have like a amphitheater, you will have to do a lot of chest movements, 190 degree or 360 degree, you're gonna have to spin around and turn. But always think about, okay, your audience, we talked about this at the beginning, where are they? Who are you talking to? How can you reach them with the space that you have available? And then just to finish, I'm going to wrap up. In the slides that you're going to get, there's a bit more on camera, on pitching on camera. They're very simple. It's about the light, and you will understand them. But something that is very important on camera is to always remember, and it goes back to mindset, and we do a big loop back into the beginning, which is, if you are engaged, if you are willing to talk or willing to communicate, people will feel that on camera. When we started in March, my first Zoom conference was in front of 300 people, and I had no idea how it went. No idea. I couldn't see anyone. I was like, I don't know how it went. It was for architects. I've never talked to architects before. And I was like, okay, practice what you preach. If you are engaged, if you are feeling confident or comfortable, or that you want to bring your passion, that's what people will remember. And I think that's something so important to remember while we can't be face to face. Yes, it's so hard when you don't have the live feedback. I totally agree. That's why you have to trust yourself. Trust that you're doing a great job if you're feeling that, you know, you're engaged and you're delivering the best way possible. Next, before we have questions, choose one thing to focus on. I don't want you to take away everything and to try to do it all. If it's, okay, I'm going to video myself and see what comes. Okay, start there. There's no need to look at the content, no need to look at the mindset, no need to look at all the body language exercises that we've talked about. Try to focus on one thing. Communication is like a domino effect. You start working on one thing, and then loads of things will fall into place. And if you want to do more, there will be in a follow-up email that Kaylin will send today, access to the tutorial page. It's completely free to sign up to. There are videos, worksheets, and audios that you can look into. There's a mini course on how to present or create a presentation from scratch into delivery, and it guides you day to day through a few exercises. If you need more guidance and preparation, as loads of you said, it's quite hard to put the time in. It takes 15 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day, but it's important that you put the practice in. I'm going to take any questions, so start writing them in the Q&A, in the chat. But I also want to say thank you so much to the Chamber of Commerce for inviting me in, because with the work I do as a coach, I'm also able to give back to refugees and help them feel that they belong in their new country. And I do that through dancing and dance sessions. And in Norwich, more particularly, I'm volunteering with the City of Sanctuary Art Stream, and we are raising funds with an art auction on the 19th of March, and we would love to have you. So if you are interested in supporting The funds is going to go to 5 different charities that are working with refugees, and the more and more we will see that there will be so many more displaced people coming into countries, and it's something that we cannot avoid. So the online art auction link will also be on the follow-up link from a follow-up email from Kaylin. So thank you for today. If you want to be in touch with me, if you have questions, here is my email. Do not hesitate to send me an email. Obviously, I will be on maternity leave very soon, but my assistant Emily could probably pick it up too. So let's move on to, I know it's 12 o'clock, and if you have to go, thank you so much for staying. If you can stay for questions, then that would be great.
Thank you so much. So there's a question from Alex, which I can answer. Yes, there will be a copy of the recording of this session available for participants. We just need to edit just the start and the end, but as soon as it's available, I'll share it with everyone who attended, as well as the people that registered and weren't able to attend. I'm just seeing if there's any more questions coming in.
I think Doreen gave more of a tip, which is pitching your message and have a call to action. I think that's a really key thing to have at the end, is to have a call to action. So a bit like I did with the tutorial page, it's like, well, you can carry on the work, you can do this, or you can choose one thing to focus on. Having call to action that people can do towards the end of your pitch are very useful. So thanks, Doreen, for sharing that.
Thank you. I think I'll quickly ask one question and then we'll call it quits, because I'm conscious we are slightly over, but I think this question will be useful. So how to answer questions we're not prepared for, but to have confidence when answering them?
Yeah, that's a really good one. I would say try to have as much preparation as you can beforehand. But if you're not prepared and someone asks a question, I would say take your time to answer it. Breathing is what will help you to come up with the best answer. It's not because someone asks a question that you have to answer straight away. You can say, oh, that's a great question, I didn't think of it. Let me think this through. And then you have 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 20 seconds. Maybe you need to write a few points. I am an extrovert, so often I go with my first idea, but usually the third one is the best. So having some time to reflect, write things down, and then see which answer would be the best. And if there is nothing that comes, you can always say, I will come back to you with more details on that. Like, you don't have to have all the answers always on hand. Hopefully you have most of them, but it happens that sometimes you cannot answer on the spot. Holly is asking a question. What is your top tip for stopping talking? You know it's time, but how do you manage to hold your tongue and ride out the silence? Breathing again. You finish your sentence, you breathe, and you wait. I would say, Holly, if you haven't practiced this before, I would suggest you look at active listening. It's a really good practice to say one thing, trust that it's enough, and the other person on the other side will reply. Or you finish with a question. As I said, if you have a question, then they will answer. But active listening, questions are a great way to shut up if you have a tendency to carry on.
Thank you. And I think we'll go with the last question from Lee, who said, do you have any tips for quickly communicating with a gatekeeper to get past them and to your intended contact?
I'm not quite sure I'm understanding the question.
So I think it's more, so say if I'm reading it more as if you're calling to speak to someone. So I guess if you're communicating with someone to get through to the person that you need to speak to, is how I'm interpreting it.
So how do you pass the secretary?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have an answer for this, but I have an experience to share. So when I started coaching, it was in 2000 and no, when I started, it was before that. I wanted to work with production companies and helping them on their music videos or with their talents for the movement direction on shoots. And I didn't have any contacts in London, so I had a lot of gatekeepers to go through. And what I did is I was emailing the person, finding their emails, emailing the person on a Monday, let's say, saying, I will be near your office tomorrow or on Wednesday. Can I come and say hi and talk to you for 5 minutes? And usually I'd never got a reply because people are busy or like, who is she? Don't know that person. But then I would go to the reception and be, I've been in touch with such and such, or calling them, or I've been in touch with such and such. Can I speak to them, please? And 50% of the time it worked, 50% of the time it didn't. So it's kind of try your luck and try everything. And if they were not there, I would, or if they didn't want to talk to me, or even if they wanted to talk to me, I had croissant that I brought in the morning, and I would leave a croissant with my card. And because it was food, it was going to get delivered. So somehow, and I got a few jobs this way. So somehow you can go through the gatekeepers if you're trying different creative techniques on how to get people. It's harder now that we can't do face-to-face, I guess. But you can always say, oh, I've emailed this person and we're meant to have a chat, but can you put me in touch with them, please? So, you can try, you can bluff it a little bit, and nobody will say anything. And people were actually quite charmed or found it funny that I did that. So you give a good impression. I'm sure they still remember the croissant being delivered.
I love
right,
that.
thank you everyone for staying, and yes, see you, Tamara, at the City of Sanctuary art auction. Lovely.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us and staying on. I know we slightly ran over, but we would like to answer your questions. So yeah, thank you. Kayleen, please, would you be kind enough to send Ember's email, as I cannot? Yes, of course I can. So in the post-event email, I will CC Emma in. Obviously, this is her last week, I believe, but she's got an assistant that will be picking up emails. So don't worry, Emma will come back to you at some point. She's just going to go away temporary and have a baby, but she will love to talk to you all. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. Emma, have you got a final farewell before I end the session?
I want to say how lovely it is. Even though I can't see your faces, I can feel all the thank yous coming at the end. So I really appreciate the feedback. And if you want to be in touch over email, please do.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And hopefully we will see you again soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.